In this video, I'm going to show you how I built this attic insulation box. And we're going to do it right now. If you are a regular viewer of my channel, you'll know that I pretty much remodeled my entire house. And as I did it room by room, I added insulation in the ceiling in the attic. And it is probably the best thing that I have ever done because I'm saving a ton of money on oil. My heat is fueled by oil, which is a big deal because I'm paying probably half as much as I did before when it was poorly insulated and in some spots not insulated at all. So now I have about an R49. You might be asking, what is an R49? Well, the R stands for resistance, thermal resistance. It's basically a measurement of how well insulation insulates. So with an R49, that's pretty good. You know what's not good? Is an R.31. And that is what the R value of 1/4 inch plywood is. I looked that up just for you. So you can get ladders that are insulated, but they only have just a little bit of foam. And since this is a weak point now, I am going to try and block the heat from going up and escaping into my attic. Now, this is not a complicated process. In fact, you can buy one of these pre-made at the store. I saw one at my local store, although it's more expensive than the materials I'm going to use to build it. You can get one online. That one looks really cheap, and it looks really cheap. Not a lot of R value compared to what I think I can get out of the one that I'm going to build. And here's the short version of the video because it's not complicated. All I'm going to do is measure the opening, get some foam insulation board, cut it to size, put it together, making sure that I have enough room where the ladder doesn't push it up, glue it if you want, tape it, put it in place. And that's it. If that's the information you were looking for, I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. But if you know anything about my videos, I don't really generally make short videos, so I'm going to make this a very detailed step-by-step of how to build this. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my thermal imaging camera and I'm going to see what it's going to show me. All of this blue right here, that's telling me that that is colder than the ceiling. You see all the yellow around it? So right now it's reading about 62, 63 degrees, and the ceiling is about 71. So I wish it was colder, to tell you the truth, because we have very cold winters, and I'm sure this is going to do a really good job with that. But we're going to test before and after with the same temperature that's outside, and we'll see how we do at the end of the video. First step is to go up, see what we're working with. So this is what the opening looks like for me. It's going to look a number of different ways, so you can just use this video as kind of a guide. But I'm not going to be able to tell exactly what I'm going to have to do here until I actually close this. So with the ladder shut, I can take a look around, and you can see the reason I'm going to make a box is because the ladder sticks up past this framing. So I can't just put one piece of foam or some insulation above here. I have to actually build it up. And you could do it with wood around here, but I'm going to make it an all-in-one box out of foam board. So I got to figure out where I want it to be. I could have it sit on here because all the way around I'm looking good. But then when I come over here, I have some plywood. I could also make it so it sits in here and sit on top of here, but I'm missing a piece of framing over here. So I guess just pick your poison. I could either add a piece of framing here, or I could add a piece of framing here and it can sit on top of here all the way around. I think it might make a better seal if I'm able to drop it in here. Before I cut that piece of framing, I want to make sure that this is going to work. I got 2-inch foam board, so I just want to take a look around. If I put my foam right here, I just want to make sure that I'm not going to run into stuff like this. That might be the closest one right there, and I have plenty of room, about 1 inch. I am going to make this a little loose, but not 1 inch loose. And then over here, from here to here, plenty of room. And then over here, I have plenty of room. So, cut that piece and install that. 22 5/8 by 2 5/8. Go cut it. So 2 5/8, but I'm actually going to go 2 3/8 because the other side is 2 1/2, and then I can hold it up even with the framing. I'm going to use a couple 3 construction screws to install this. 1, 2, 3. But I'm going to pre-drill this to make it easier. In the middle, past the knots. I suppose you could go with insulation here. Might add a little more R value if you wanted to. Line this up. Like that. I just want to go even on the tops so that there's a nice tight seal when I go to put the box on here. Now let's take measurements for the box. So I'm going to measure the width going this way. So that's about 55 1/2. I'm going to make it 55 1/8. That way I have plenty of room to maneuver this. And it doesn't get stuck. I can lift it up easy and I can drop it down easy. So 55 1/8. Let me check, make sure it's good on this side. That's 55 1/2. Guess I did a good job when I framed this. So make the total length 55 1/8. I'll write that down. So now I can measure this way, and I got to be careful of these joist hangers because they're sticking out a little bit on each end. So I want to go to the shortest point, which looks to be about 25 1/8. So I think I'll go about 24 3/4. That's still plenty tight where I don't run into the ladder, things like this. I have 3 inches. And then this side, plenty good. 24 3/4, plenty of room. Write that down. Now I need to close the ladder so that I can measure how high the sides have to be. So this is the highest point. I need something straight to go across here. And I found the perfect thing in the attic, an EAT sign. See, you don't need all kinds of fancy tools. So I'll check this side. That's about 5 1/4. Check the other side. And that's about 5 inches. So I want it at least 5 1/4. And just in case, I'm going to make it 6 inches. That should give me plenty of room. So here's what I'm using for materials. Number 1, foam insulation board. This is 2 inches and it has an R value of 13.1. If you look here, you could do it with any one of these that you want. I would go at least 3/4 because it's more stable. But that's only an R value of 5. So the further, like I said, the thicker you get, the more the R value. I got this tape, which is a duct tape. It's actually made for ductwork. It's an aluminum tape, so I think this is gonna stick really good to this. And this is expensive. You can get something less expensive, but I'm actually gonna use this because I have to redo my dryer vent. So I'm gonna need that. And then this probably isn't necessary either. Construction adhesive. This is going to be a little extra, and I have some left over, about that much, so that's why I'm using that. But you can probably skip that step. So I'm going to take my measurements, and the first one I'm going to do is the 6 inches. That's going to be the sides. So I'll make a mark right here, and I'll actually take my knife and make a little slice right here. I'll show you why in a second. Down at the other end, 6 inches, and I'll snap a line. I'm going to tuck my chalk line right in here. Hold it to the line, snap it. Then we can cut that. I'm going to extend my knife all the way, and I'm just going to follow that line all the way down. This stuff is very, very easy to cut. I want to try and make this nice and straight. I'm trying to hold the blade straight up and down too. Now at this point, if you have something that is 1 inch or smaller, you can just snap it, or you may have gone all the way through, and then you can cut the other side. But since I have 2 inch, I don't want to snap it because I want there to be a nice clean edge so I can attach the pieces together. So I'm going to use a saw. Any saw will do. You can use like a serrated knife or something like that. We'll see how this one does. I want a nice straight edge. This is actually helping to get it nice and straight. Okay, that's pretty clean, pretty straight. So it's got kind of a bend in it, but once we attach it all together, should be good. So I'm going to need one more of these, so I'm going to do the same thing I just did. Number 2. Now I'm going to cut my side pieces at 55 1/8. 55 1/8, 55 1/8. I'm going to use my saw as a straight edge, and on this one, we're going to cut it and snap it. And we'll see how it comes out. Nice. Now I'll match this piece up, make it the same. So let's pretend that these are the 2 side pieces. They're not, these are the cutoffs. And let's pretend that this is the opening. So when I made my measurements, I got the total opening. So instead of taking the full measurement that I took, what I'm going to have to do is subtract the thickness of these, because that piece is going in between here. So my measurement is 24 3/4, but I have to subtract 2 of these, and they're not exactly 2 inches for whatever reason. So we can do 3 7/8. So 24 3/4 minus 3 7/8. If you're not very good at subtracting fractions, I don't blame you, because it is a little confusing. Here's an easy way to do it. Just take a piece of anything, do your original mark, 24 3/4, and now we want to subtract 3 7/8. So then we'll mark it right here, and then we'll take that measurement, 20 7/8. Napalapa. Match this one up so we can make it the same exact size. Yeah, that's the only problem with snapping it. Not exactly a perfect cut, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work. They also have tape that's wider than this. They didn't have it at the store though. And you could probably get it online, but we'll just double this up. Okay, let's put this together. So I'm gonna put the nicest piece towards the bottom, where it needs to go flush against the framing. And I'm gonna put this so that it's on the outside. Now this insulation board is actually called foil faced because on either side there's an aluminum sheet basically, and one of them is reflective, one of them is not so reflective. And all the research I've done, it doesn't really look like it matters which side goes where in this application. So I'm gonna do it this way, and if you know more about the subject than I do, feel free to do it that way. And the only downside of this tape is you have to cut it with a knife, and it's very sticky, so be careful. I'll start like this, get it as tight as I can. Just put as many pieces as you need, or you think you need, to hold this together. When I put the top on, it'll help hold everything together. Probably be better to work on a flat surface, but. I'm gonna just run some tape on the inside too. Another reason I got this stuff is because this is aluminum. It will stick way better to this tape than to foam. like on some other products, because this is just not sticking at all, which I figured was gonna be the case, so that's why I got this. Now, because when you cut foam, you can't be super precise. Well, maybe you can be, but not me. So I'm gonna take this and go check before I put the top on. Let's make sure it fits. Nice. Plenty of room to move around, so it won't be a struggle to get off or on. Nice and tight around the framing. Now let's see what it looks like when the ladder is closed. Cool, plenty of space on all sides. And the top will straighten out. It's a little bowed in right here, so I'll have even more space right there. Let's check with our EAT sign. That's pretty tight, but still plenty of room. So I feel like I'm maximizing the space here that the hot air has to fill up, so I think that's gonna be good. Cool, let's go put the top on. Now to cut the top, I should be able to just take the original measurements, but I'm gonna double check just to make sure. I want to keep in mind that this is bowed a little bit. So as I tape this, I want to make sure that that bow goes away and makes everything nice and square or even. And this has to be pushed down as well. Let's do some glue. Put a couple pieces of tape like this just to hold it in place. Nice and tight. Pull it down nice and tight. That's hanging over a little bit, but that's fine. I don't want to pull that out. Pull this out. There we go. Okay. I have a big piece of leftover insulation over there. So why not add it to the top? Right now, this is 13.1 on the top. If I put another piece on, it'll be 26.2, R value. So even if I have to cut it, put two pieces on, I think it'll add a lot of value to it. R value, guess I can just continue that right here. Way too much chalk in this chalk line. I'll put one piece of tape on each corner just to hold it in place. Just make sure you extend the tape enough so that it touches the aluminum or whatever you're working with, preferably not the foam. didn't do this on the other one. I should have. Now you guys can. Now I'm going to do a piece all along this seam. Now we can go a little crazy with the tape and seal this all up. Eventually that glue is going to hold everything in place, but why not tape it? Do this. Be a friend. Leave an end. Okay, I think we're good. So my camera person brought up a good point. This right here on the bottom, this stuff will probably flake off over time. I'm gonna tape it. Use like a whole roll of tape for this, but that's okay. I think it'll look better too. Well, all that's left to do is put it in place. So, put it in that framing. There we go. Cool. Or warm. Now this is nice and light. You can also build these out of wood and like fiberglass insulation. Do the sides out of wood and then do fiberglass on the top, like a piece of plywood. But this, nice and light and easy. Take off, drop on there. At this point, you could take this a couple steps further and you could add, say, some foam around the edges here just to make it nice and tightly sealed. You can add a handle so you can pull it down. You can add more insulation on the top, some fiberglass, or maybe some more on the sides. Anything you can do to seal up any air gaps or anything like that, add more R value to it. Ideally, you want to get as close to the R value that's already in your ceiling. And if you noticed here, this was kind of a drop down and I chose to do that because of safety. I didn't want a trip hazard up here. So this is a little less than the rest of the attic. That's R49. This is about an R30. So I have an R26.2 and on the sides, it's R13.1. So I could add some more, but when it comes down to it, anything I do here is better than nothing. And I think this is going to work really well. Now let's see if it shuts. I love it when a plan comes together. So it's built, it's in. There's only one way to find out if it actually works. Check it out. It's been about 24 hours since the attic insulation box has been sitting there. It's about the same temperature outside as it was when I tested before. And before we could see a ton of blue, which indicates I was losing heat. It was not sealed up. Let's see how it looks now. With the camera, that's a huge difference. And as far as temperature, like this is reading about 71. And I go to the ceiling. Maybe 70, 71 and a half, 72. And I feel like that's a good measurement to try and get that temperature as close as possible. And that might be 1 degree or a half a degree off, whereas before it was like 9 or 10 degrees. So hopefully that's trapping the warm air and it's gonna prevent all my heat from going out into the attic. So now the weak point in my ceiling insulation has been sealed up. And I think it's going to make a big difference. And I like that because I love saving money on my oil bill. If you needed to do something like this, I hope this video helps. Or if you just wanted to watch it, I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see a ton of behind the scenes footage, you can join my YouTube memberships with the join button below or my Patreon. There's a link in the description down below. If not, no pressure whatsoever. The best thing you could do for my channel to help support it is to click on another video, which will be popping up after the outtakes. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Jerk, 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 jerk. Fired by an oil furnace, and strike one. My heat is powered by oil. Powered? That's fueled by an oil burning furnace. So, oh man, I almost had it. I'm probably paying 2 times less than you would think. If you watch my channel on the reg, good. It's highly recommended not to use a table saw like that. This piece was warped past the knots. I better not do that. Ew. 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 Kill me. I am the strongest man alive. Leave me alone. 24 3/4 minus 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go another one minus or add back an 1/8. 20 5/8. Let's do it a different way. Oops. Oh, don't do that. Oh no. Did they lie to me? Is that not aluminum? Aluminum? Doesn't have to be perfect. That's what my mom always told me. So Lauren, when you cut this together, cut it like this. So like start it there, right? So you don't see that massive gap.
Make sure not to put this in the bloopers.
That was the wrong spot to put that glue. Easy peasy. Okay. There it is. Ah! Pay attention, Matt. Gotta tell you, this is a fun little project. You know? Don't buy one of those pre-made things. Do this with your kid or your parents or your cousin or your significant other. It'll be fun. Or do it by yourself like me if you're a loser. Just kidding.
I'm chopped liver, but that's fine. Whatever.
Well, you know. I have to pretend you're not here. That's the thing. I can't break the fourth wall. Smoosh it. Smoosh. Make it feel good. Aww. Shucks. Oh my gosh. What a good fit. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy. I'd say that's pretty sealed up. You're like, I think that's good. I think, yeah, that'll do. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that's fine. That'll do. I think so. Hey! Hello? Russ! Help! Christmas vacation. I wonder if I could get myself out of here. Movies are so fake. Okay. Cut.